All right, everyone, welcome back. You know how it is. We all hit that wall sometimes. You're chugging along, making progress, then bam, motivation just takes a nosedive.
It can be super frustrating, right? Learning English is important to you. You want to keep going, but sometimes it's just hard to muster that energy.
It's so real. So today, we're diving deep into practical tips to stay motivated on your English learning journey. And we've got awesome guides for this, Marco and Erica, from the podcast The Simple Pod.
I love those guys. They're so down to earth and they give genuinely helpful advice.
Absolutely. No fluff, just straight to the point strategies that anyone can use. And you know what really struck me? Their emphasis on the science behind motivation.
Oh, yeah, the dopamine connection? That was fascinating. They talk about how our brains are wired to seek rewards and how we can use that to our advantage.
Dopamine. Now, I'm no neuroscientist. Break that down for me and our listeners in simple terms.
Okay, so think of dopamine like this. It's a little burst of happiness your brain gets when you do something enjoyable or when you achieve a goal.
Ooh, I like happiness bursts.
Right. And the cool thing is, each time you get that dopamine hit, your brain's like, hey, that felt good. Let's do that again. It reinforces the behavior, making you want to repeat it.
Uh-huh. So that's how it ties into motivation. But how do we actually apply this to learning English? Give us the goods.
Well, Marco and Erica's first strategy is all about setting achievable goals.
Yeah.
And they're very specific about what kind of goals work best.
Because we've all tried setting those big, ambitious goals, right? Like, I'm going to become fluent in English this year. Yeah. But then what happens?
You get overwhelmed. It's too much too fast. And that's where the dopamine thing comes in. If your goal is so huge that you don't experience those regular wins, those little dopamine hits, your motivation fizzles out.
It's like trying to climb Mount Everest without any base camps along the way. You just run out of steam before you even get close to the summit.
Exactly. It's demoralizing. So what Marco and Erica suggest is to break down those massive goals into tiny, achievable milestones.
So instead of becoming fluent, what would be a good example of a mini goal?
They give some great examples in the podcast. Like, instead of focusing on fluency, aim to learn 5 new words each day. Or have a 5-minute conversation in English that week. Or watch 1 episode of your favorite English TV show without subtitles.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. Smaller, more frequent wins equal more dopamine, which equals more motivation. It's like leveling up in a game. You get that sense of accomplishment, and it keeps you going.
Exactly. And it makes the whole process feel less daunting. So think about it. What's one tiny, manageable goal you could set for yourself today? Something that would give you a little dopamine boost and get you moving in the right direction.
It doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? It could be as simple as reading 1 English article online or listening to 1 English song and looking up the lyrics.
Right. The point is to start small and build momentum.
Yeah.
Now, once you've got those goals in place, Marco and Erica have another awesome tip. They're big on tracking your progress.
I've got to admit, I struggle with that one. Sometimes it feels like an extra chore. Like, I'm already putting in the effort to learn. Do I really need to document every single step?
I get it. I used to feel the same way. But Marco and Erica make a really good point. They say that tracking is not about creating more work for yourself. It's about giving your brain those visual reminders of how far you've come.
Because let's face it, we tend to focus on how much we don't know, right?
Mm.
We forget about all the progress we've already made.
Exactly. And tracking helps counteract that negativity bias. It provides concrete evidence of your achievements, even on days when you're feeling discouraged.
So what are some good ways to track progress? Besides, hiring a personal assistant to follow me around and document my every English utterance.
Huh. Well, there are tons of simple methods you can use. Marco and Erica talk about keeping a learning journal where you jot down new words, grammar rules, or anything you find interesting. Or using a language learning app that visually shows your progress with those cool little progress bars and things.
I love those progress bars. It's so satisfying to see them fill up. And speaking of satisfying, let's talk about rewards. That's Marco and Erica's third strategy, and it's one I wholeheartedly endorse.
Me too. They emphasize that rewards tap into that dopamine system we talked about earlier. By associating learning English with positive experiences, we're basically training our brains to crave it.
It's like Pavlov's dogs, but instead of drooling over bells, we're getting excited about English grammar. Okay, maybe not that excited, but you get the idea. So, spill the beans, what kind of rewards do they recommend?
The great thing is, the rewards don't have to be huge or expensive. They can be simple things that you genuinely enjoy. Marco and Erica mentioned things like treating yourself to your favorite snack after a productive study session, watching an episode of an English language TV show you've been wanting to see, or listening to some English music you love.
Ooh, I like that. Or maybe planning a little trip to an English-speaking country as a long-term reward. It's like dangling a carrot in front of yourself, but in a good way.
Right, it gives you something to look forward to and makes the whole process more enjoyable. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a little challenge. Think about those three strategies we discussed: setting achievable goals, tracking your progress, and rewarding
And
yourself.
the challenges, drum roll, please.
What's one tiny action you can take today to put one of these strategies into practice? It doesn't have to be a huge change, just a small step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Remember, even small actions can create big results over time. And for more fantastic tips and inspiration, be sure to check out The Simple Pod. Thanks for joining us on this motivational deep dive. Until next time, keep those dopamine levels high and happy learning.